Peace. First slide, there we go. A recent DNA test prompted me to take a deeper look into my genealogy, my family history. And for those of you who have chosen to dive into that, well, you already have a taste for the surprises that you'll discover. For one, I found out that I am Japanese. Well, a little less than 0.01% Japanese. But it got me thinking, what else don't I know about my ancestors? Even my, most recent ancestors, my grandparents, who, died when I was a young teenager. So both my grandfathers were immigrants to this country. My dad's father, Max, was just 17 when he emigrated from outside Munich to Milwaukee in 1928. Both his parents were dead, his 3 older brothers already had families of their own, and Max had always wanted to live in America or Australia. So he chose the States and arrived successfully just in time for the Great Depression. But thanks to a cousin who actually sponsored him and his own, journeyman's papers and ornamental ironwork, he had the opportunity to work in many of Milwaukee's plants. But little did I know until 2 weeks ago when I was prodding my parents for more information for this talk, was that in 1936, my grandpa had traveled back to Germany. See, he was considering moving home until he spoke with his mentor, Carl. Now, Carl was the guy he did his apprenticeship with, and he warned my grandpa that he feared war was coming and actually convinced him to stay in the States. So it really struck me. I mean, this dude that I literally didn't know existed until a couple weeks ago is basically the reason why I'm alive. I mean, had my grandpa chosen to stay in Germany, he could have been drafted and ended up on the wrong side of the war, or dead, etc. So luckily he didn't do that. He did choose to return to his relatively new life in the States, where he founded a steel fabrication company. He married my grandma Eva up there in that upper left-hand corner. He had my dad, who's down there, who's super cute, and the rest is history. He died at the ripe old age of 93. So now, my mother's father, Norman, he was actually born in northern England in 1928 to a coal miner's family. And Norman was smart enough to get the one scholarship to go to the Duke's school next to the Duke's castle, which is Hogwarts. Awesome. After that, he had a choice. He could go into the ministry or military, and he, for reasons unknown, chose to go into the military, where he was stationed as an occupational force in a very small town in Austria, which is where he met my grandmother, an American woman who happened to have an uncle stationed in the exact same tiny town in Austria. So they fell in love, they got married, and he eventually immigrated to the United States to be with her. And again, it struck me, all these chance encounters are basically responsible for the fact that I exist. And so as I learned of these anomalies and dozens of more, I actually began to get a sense of the magnitude for the risks that my ancestor has taken and the choices that they had made that really has me here. And I actually began to wonder, all right, well, what is the recipe for my existence, or yours for that matter? What are the ingredients for my life, for your life? And it seemed like a combination of very hard work, many risks taken, a whole bunch of systems in place to support them, and of course a massive amount of serendipity. Now, have any of you ever been to like a Boulder community potluck? Anyone? Anyone? All right, cool. So have you heard someone say, oh, we're so lucky to live here? And that's a phrase usually followed by that deep yogic exhale, the minute of eye gazing, hands placed on our heart chakras. So I've actually said that phrase, and I've really meant it, but what I'm very clear on is that it is not just luck that I'm here or that you're here. I mean, it's crazy the risks that our ancestors took on behalf of this possibility of a better life for themselves and their families. It's that chance encounter, it's that wise word from a mentor at the right time, or that well-timed risk that has you here or I here, right? And I started thinking, all right, so what's the probability? See, odds are you and I wouldn't exist. The odds of us existing at all are 1 in 10 to the 2,685,000th power. You can check that blog post if you want to know where I got that number. That's basically like taking a crowd of 2 million people, putting them all together. So let's say like the crowd that showed up to Obama's '09 inauguration. And, you give them all a trillion-sided dice. Everyone rolls the dice, and they all come up the exact same number. It's insane. And so the odds are that our ancestors wouldn't have been born, and odds are you wouldn't have either, and I wouldn't have either. But the thing is, we were. And so as long as I have the opportunity, I'm going to take it to poke and prod and gather all the wisdom and the stories and the knowledge that I possibly can from them. And odds are, if you do this too, the sense of wonder and awe at your own existence will not be the only treasures you discover. Thank you.